Good morning, everybody. Hope you've had a good week and everything's going well and you got a big weekend planned. Thank you for spending a few minutes today with me. And if you will, let's go back to the 119th Psalm and continue uh, studying his words there. We'll be starting in the 147th verse. Psalm 119, 147. And again, the psalmist is um, sharing with us um, how he dealt with his dilemma when the world, I guess even you would say his natural reaction would be to try to take things into his own hands. He cries out and begs God to help him. And he says something, if you're following along in the King James, it may seem odd to you. He says, I prevented the dawning of the morning and cried. And the next verse, 148, he says, my eyes prevent the night watches. Obviously, we have in modern language an understanding of the word prevent, and that would mean to stop it. And so when we read that verse, we read, I stopped the dawn. I stopped the night. I kept it from coming. And immediately our mind goes, well, wait a minute, that doesn't add up. You can't do that. But the word prevent, the word actually, a more accurate word for you and I in today's speech would be I anticipated. I looked forward to the dawn. I looked forward. I anticipated the night. I was looking for it. And so what he's saying really is I got up early before the sun came up and I cried uh, out to God. I was hoping in your word. And so completely opposite of what it would appear to mean with today's way of speaking. But again, he was saying really almost parallel, perfectly opposite of that. Instead of saying he tried to stop it, he said, I beat it. I was up before the dawn. I looked forward to it. I was anticipating it so I could get up and begin to cry out and share with you my burdens. I stayed up during the night. I knew that my enemy was attacking, and I stayed up late so that I could talk to you about the situation, and I stayed up late so I could study and meditate on your word, he says. And so he's given us really a model here, an encouragement to us to not take lightly the study of the Word of God, of putting um, our trust in Him when we are surrounded, when we know that the enemy is attacking or coming against us. He says, use those times. And he says, I waited the night watches. The Old Testament shows us that there are or were three different time periods um, of the night watch, that there were three different watches that took place during the night. And he says here, I was awake, my eyes, the night watches. And so the implication is that he was awake all night. He was awake for all three of those watches. And while he was awake, he meditated on the Word of God. And the model I see here, or the lesson that comes to me as I look at that. Um, and you often hear people talk about they were unable to sleep. Um, and I saw a little thing, you've probably saw it before, that says, unable to sleep, don't count sheep, talk to the shepherd. Well, this psalmist understood that and he practiced that way. There are circumstances that come in our life that many times do cause us to be unable to sleep, that cause us to worry and toss and turn. And what the psalmist, the great lesson that he's teaching us here, is if you, to put it kind of simply, if you're going to be awake, tossing and turning and worrying, rolling around in the bed, unable to sleep, he says, then you may as well use that time to talk to God about that problem. Furthermore, I think another implication there is that we should be willing to give up our time, our sleep, our rest, if we need um, to spend time, extra time, in studying the Word of God, in prayer. And so it's these two verses are, again, a challenge to us, to me, that we don't waste that time, that we make the most of our time when our hearts are um, burdened, when we're worried. Pray, uh, regardless of the time of day. Go out of our way to pray and to study the Word of God. I would love somehow to see if something. I don't know how you'd ever do this, but to be able to some way measure how many sermons have been preached over the years by preachers who the thought came to them in the middle of the night. I can't tell you the number of preachers I know that I've heard that say they keep a notepad and a pen beside the bed because God will wake them up with a thought. And if they don't write it down, they'll wake up the next morning going, I know I had a thought, I just don't know what it was. And so that's some of the most valuable time that we have, is those early morning watches, those late night watches that we can spend time with God in prayer. I've never heard anybody say, I regret that I got up 15, 20 minutes early, 30 minutes early this morning, or an hour, whatever. I regret getting up earlier than I needed to. I had to be somewhere at 8. I needed to get up at 7. I didn't. I've never heard anybody say I regret that I got up early and spent time in the Bible. I spent time praying. I've never heard anybody say they regretted it, that they wish they wouldn't have done it. Um, and so the psalmist again is just really, I think, just by his example, he's not saying to us we need to do that, but he is showing us by example that it was beneficial to him, that it was helpful to him to spend extra time with the Lord in His Word and in prayer. And certainly, I think we would all agree today that our world, our churches, our families need that time of extra prayer, extra consultation with God. Hope you'll think about that. Hope it'll challenge you a little bit. Maybe tomorrow morning, set your clock a little early. Maybe tonight, um, stay up a few minutes late, not to watch the ball game or your TV show or whatever, but to take a few extra minutes tonight before you go to bed to spend time with God, spend time in His Word, talking to Him. See if it isn't worth it. Don't believe you'll regret it. Believe you'll be better off for it. Have a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.